Hello and welcome to all. The world is vast and full of wonders, and no matter who you are as a traveler and explorer, it is impossible to know all the beauty that planet Earth hides from us. Incredible and secret phenomena, or just plain crazy, but which have the merit of being unique in the world. Whether it's an endless parade of ducks or the fabulous journey of the monarch butterflies, one thing's for sure, you won't regret the show. So, sit back and make yourself comfortable because today we're going to see 10 things that you'll probably see for the first time, and that you'll remember for a long time. In a previous video, we presented a selection of the stupidest or most unusual world records ever set by the Guinness Book of World Records. The Great Migration of monarch butterflies is one of those mysteries of nature that man has still not managed to solve. These magnificent butterflies, with their colorful patterns, migrate from North America from September to November. They migrate to the Mexican Sierra Nevada, where they gather in the high forests of the state of Michoacán to spend the winter. To protect themselves from the freezing cold, they will then clump together by the millions on the tree trunks, giving the conifers of the forest a truly extraordinary appearance, hence their name, sacred fir trees. In fact, the butterflies are so numerous that the sound of their flight can be heard for miles around. Once the sun is high enough in the sky to raise the temperature a little, these billions of monarch butterflies will gradually spread their wings and begin their fabulous journey. The return journey is much harder and longer than the outward journey, and it will take several generations of butterflies to complete it. This incredible migration is thus a real enigma for science, which so far cannot explain the mechanisms of this fabulous journey. People with red hair have always been persecuted or mocked by people, and carrot hair will certainly not tell you otherwise. So, to do justice to these people who were once oppressed by the ugly human society, an international festival has been created to pay tribute to them, in the small town of Breda, located in the Netherlands. This festival, which takes place throughout the weekend, is free of charge and offers a whole host of joyous activities with family or friends, without necessarily having a head of the fire. And like every year, the festivities will end in a grand finale, with a gigantic group photo, which can easily bring together more than 1,000 redheads in the same shot. The only downside to this festival of redheads is that it was accidentally created by a blonde. Yes, you heard right, because it is to the painter Bart Rouwenhorst that we owe this festival for the least colorful, and the genesis of its creation is totally fortuitous. The young artist had indeed wanted to paint young women with red hair and had placed an ad in the newspaper to that effect. Instead of the 15 models requested for the casting, Bart found himself with more than 150 redheaded women, and in order not to fire any of them, he decided to organize a gathering with a lottery. Thus, the Redhead Festival was born, and more than a decade later, the small event had grown exponentially, welcoming more than 5,000 people from over 80 countries. Among the most surprising and rare phenomena in nature, the brinacle is at its most macabre. Aptly nicknamed, the icy finger of death, this phenomenon is an underwater ice stalactite, which forms when a stream of extremely cold saltwater pours down from the ice caps. This nascent ice stalactite spreads down like a dead, icy finger before touching the seafloor and freezing in place, everything in its path. Although this incredible phenomenon has been known since the 1960s, the brinacle could not really be observed and filmed for the first time until 2011, which testifies to its extreme rarity. Several elements must come together to give birth to it, including a flow of very salty and very cold water and a porous ice cap. The fight you are about to watch comes straight from the sordid imagination of a great lunatic, but let's face it, the show isn't that bad. On a metal plate improvised in the ring, two improbable fighters face each other, a young crab, and a small remote-controlled robot. From the very beginning of the fight, the curious android gave us a nice demonstration of swirling shots with his long stick, which impressed his opponent so much that he cautiously retreated backward. But it was in fact just a brilliant feint on the part of the young fierce crab since, with a powerful and precise stroke, he grabbed the robot's stick and knocked it over with disconcerting ease. A bitter bit for this little robot that has learned that you can't squeeze the claw on a crab with impunity. The coronavirus crisis has not only affected humans, but animals have also had to suffer the horrors of containment and mandatory quarantine. The case of these Spanish pigeons reminds us that our animal friends were also greatly affected by the COVID pandemic-19. This scene, which may seem funny at first glance, was taken a few weeks ago in the small town of Benidorm, Spain. It shows a woman, surrounded by hundreds of pigeons, as she was returning from shopping at the local supermarket. The hungry birds were constantly circling the woman, looking for the easy and plentiful food that the residents and the many tourists used to serve them. But since Spain imposed a strict quarantine to limit the spread of the virus, there was no one left to feed the pigeons. This forced them to become more aggressive and enterprising. Because in the end, a hungry pigeon is like a hungry tiger. And although they do not have the same lethal capacity, the fact remains that these birds have become so bold, that they did not hesitate to twirl around the poor lady, giving her the fright of her life. So, if the confinement had continued, might they not have finally become like Alfred Hitchcock's killer birds? Well, for having seen this scary movie, we hope that this is not the case at all. Mother Nature will never cease to enchant us with these fairy tale shows, painting pictures of which only she knows the secret of colors and shapes. One of the most magnificent canvases is without a doubt these gigantic waterspouts, which originate during sunset in Laguna de Bay, in the Philippines. Rising like giant columns leaning against the ocean, these waterspouts almost seem to keep the threatening sky in its place, at the risk of seeing it fall on our heads. This marine phenomenon is in fact a vortex of cold air mixed with seawater, with associated wind speeds of up to 100 km per hour. It is therefore a phenomenon whose beauty is equaled only by the danger it poses to the heads of sailors, who may one day be unlucky enough to cross its path. While the Black Lives Matter movement is still raging in the United States, and that of the Yellow Vests resumes sporadically in France after the compulsory confinement, another movement seems to have emerged in Thailand. But this time there is no politics at stake, as it is in fact a parade of thousands of starving ducks, who have completely blocked a country road not far from the capital Bangkok. The completely surreal scene was filmed by a poor motorist who was blocked for long minutes by the passage of these extraordinary demonstrators. We can see a real surge of birds swarming everywhere, all flocking to the same point as if attracted by a mysterious duck magnet. So yes, you may love Donald Duck and Daffy Duck, but an army of ducks flying out of sight is a pretty hard thing to deal with.
ผมกำลังจะรีบไปงานครับแต่ไปไม่ได้เป็ดได้ปิดถนน
If you're hiking in the wilderness and you hear the characteristic sound of bees buzzing and getting louder, be sure the hive is not far away. These nice little foraging insects establish their colonies in places where there are few visitors and where they are fairly inaccessible, in order to protect themselves from any danger. However, bees sometimes choose funny and surprising locations for themselves, to say the least. Like this colony that decided to build its hive inside the trunk of a car. The incredible but true scene took place in the town of Haverfordwest, Wales, when Carol Howarth parked her Mitsubishi Outlander to do some shopping. Taking advantage of his absence and the immobility of the vehicle, a queen bee rushed into the trunk through a small gap in the rear wiper blade, probably attracted by something sweet. The queen's mother was immediately followed by her royal escort of more than 20,000 worker bees, fiercely attached to the safety and comfort of their suzerain. It was a bewildering sight when this multitude of insects literally covered the rear of the car, to the point of hiding the details of the bodywork and windshield, never letting go of the car's grip, even when the car was in motion. In the end, it took the intervention of a team of professional acupuncturists from the region to dislodge this royal intruder and its army of bees. If you are lucky enough to live in a very cold region, you may have already witnessed the incredible celestial phenomenon of parhelia, better known by the exotic name of the sundogs. This optical atmospheric phenomenon, linked to the solar halo phenomenon, gives the illusion that there is not one, but three suns shining in the sky at the same time. The duration of its appearance varies from a few seconds to several tens of minutes, which still leaves people the pleasure of observing it and even being able to film it. Like this video sequence that comes to us from Sweden, where we can see all the majesty and beauty of this splendid solar phenomenon. So, what do you think of these 10 things, which you are certainly not used to seeing every day? Which one of them impressed you the most? Give us your thoughts in the comments. And if you liked the video, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Same time tomorrow, same channel for a new video.